coaches didn't know about my rugby experience as much, but he had been told by the players and some of the other coaches, and like, oh, that basketball girl coming into national team. She can jump. She will help us in being a lock. And I was like, yes.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, viewers from wherever you're watching us from. It's your host here at Wima Sports, indeed where we are championing sports development, and we are at Osoita Lodge, where guests become family. Speaking of guests, kuna mwanadada hapa kando yangu, kimwona, munamuona vizuri none other than Dr. Emma, ama tunasemanga Emmaculate Awuor. Karibu sana daktari.
Asante.
And maybe if you can just introduce yourself to the viewers, they get to know more about you.
Hi, as Jermaine said, my name is Emmaculate Awuor.
Doctari.
I'm a sports passionate person. Currently, I'm doing my PhD at Texas A&M, which is in Texas, United States. I have done my undergraduate in Strathmore University. I was doing informatics and computer science, did my master's still in Texas when I was doing sports management. And I've always been an athlete in most part of my life, so mostly basketball and rugby. So it's always been academics and sports for me.
I think I had the wrong attire today because I have a full, how do you call them? The cowboy attires at home with the cape and what. I should have done that.
Well, let it not be confused just because I'm coming from Texas, I'm a cowboy fan, because I am not. They have not been having a very good strike in terms of their competition. So we are not associating as per now.
As per now,
no.
But have you had an experience of, that being out within the Texas field?
Oh, yes. Yeah. It's really amazing. And the exposure that you get in sports outside there just makes you want to do something different, something more. And that's one of my motivations why I wanted to do my sports management outside Kenya. I believe we still do not have the business side of sports in Kenya. So I wanted to go in a place where I can actually see business in sports live. And that was actually, the American system has really professionalized sports.
Awesome.
The business aspect is really good.
And I'm really happy for you for that. I'm really fully excited, the Kenyans getting into, what the country needs in regards to sports.
Yes.
And I'm really hoping to see you in one of these offices someday.
Why not?
Making changes in this nation, right?
Why not?
Why not?
When the time is right.
When the time is right, it shall happen.
Amen.
So how did you start? Where did you start participating in sports actively?
I can say it comes from my family, which is it's not normal. We are not socialized as Africans, as Kenyans, in terms of when you're born, being introduced into sports immediately. Our culture is in such that things like religion are the ones that take, that's what's most important, and the values that are expected as a woman, as a man, when you're growing up, that's what takes place mostly. But I came out of a family where I'm the last one of 3 brothers, and all of them used to play sports. They used to play, I don't know if I should say soccer in this essence, or football. But just know that's what I'm talking about. That motivated me to go into sports. And I started, soccer was a thing that we just do, football was a thing we'd do, all of us, just go and play for fun. And later on, I found my niche. I went into going into rugby when I was very young. I mean, standard 6 or something like that. I was introduced to it. And that's how it just sprout out to what I'm doing today. Yes.
So standard 6, how did you, what was the first time you held that ball? How was it like? If you can.
It was weird. It was very weird. I think I would call we call him Coach Pau. They were trying to do grassroots sports. So they were introducing sports into primary schools at that time. And part of that, he came into my school. I was studying in 3 Belts at that time. And during our PE time and all that, on Friday, he came out and introduced rugby. It was very weird because we're used to the football, the round ball. And now we are getting some sort of an oval ball and you're like, what are we supposed to do? And then when you're told for you to move forward, you move the ball backwards. And we're like, this does not make sense. But that was the introduction. It was all about grassroots rugby that got me into that. Yeah.
And the ball was so different that if it bounces, it goes opposite
You
direction.
You just never know. The rugby ball bounces on any side.
Yeah.
Yes.
I bet you're used to that now, and you can tell.
You never get used to it. You can try control a part of it, but you
So
just
hard.
never know. You hope that it goes your way.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you got into rugby, high school, which sports actively?
So I have a very sad story to that.
Yeah.
So I was among the top performers in my school, and we were called to Pangani Girls National School. But initially I had refused to go to Pangani because it did not have rugby. It got to a point where I was actually selecting a high school just because of the sport.
Wow.
But when my mom told me, it was actually like a threat. Because she was tired of running around. Because at that time, my options were, there's a district school, I can't remember its name. And then there was Precious Blood, which was also playing rugby. But getting into Precious Blood at that time was so hard because it's also a national school.
Yeah.
And by the time I went to the second day after the announcement, I was, I think, the 600 applicant to try and get in the few slots that were remaining.
Wow.
So my mom was really tired. And she was like, you better go to Pangani or I'll take you to a Kakamega high school. Hey. Me, a Nairobi girl, I was just like, we'll go to Pangani. So that's how I ended up at Pangani.
Yes.
And when I got there, I couldn't play rugby because they didn't have rugby. Hockey and basketball were the major sports in Pangani. Me and my height. So the coach and some of the players saw me and they were like, oh, you're very tall.
Yeah.
Why don't you come and try basketball? So at first I refused until the coach personally came to my class and was like, you come. And talked to me and got me into Coach Omangi things and got me exposed to that. And within the first year, I was actually playing for the team. So that was really good. Yeah, so I switched from rugby to basketball. But when I was coming back home during the midterm, I'd still do rugby until to a point in Form 2 when I was threatened because sometimes I'd come back with some injuries and Mr. Omangi was like, we need to stop this rugby. I know where you train. So I took a pause when I got to about Form 3. Yes.
And I got, after that, college. When did you get back into rugby?
So I finished playing basketball and doing my academics and I got a sports scholarship for basketball to go into Strathmore. So that's why I was doing informatics and computer science and had the 4 years scholarship to do that. But every time I envisioned myself wearing the national team jersey, I always saw rugby and not basketball. Yet I was playing in the Premier League and all that. I had exposure of a team a coach who was actually coaching the national team. You know, Mr. Ronnie was actually coaching the national team. So it was actually weird that was the closest, but that is not where my vision was. So immediately on the 4th year of university, I told him, I've served my time. I think I need to chase what I've always wanted. And immediately I finished after my exam, I gave myself a target of 6 months. I want to go back into the national team. You just have to work hard to it. And for sure, in 5 months, I'd joined the team, I'd exposed myself to the place necessary. And in 5 months, I was given a call up into the national team. And that's how I continued with my journey. But it was also good because some of the people who were there, people who had played with before. Yes.
Yeah, so at times in life, you know, such situations happen where you have to break or pause a little bit on what you really want.
Yes.
And do something different. What was this moment like to you? And is there something you learned from playing basketball for that time into getting back to rugby in 6 months and getting into the national team? If you can talk to someone who's going through such a moment right now and just, you know, let them know it's possible.
I think it's just all about knowing what you want and going for it. For me, it was very clear what I really wanted. And so I got myself exposed to the right venues, which could get me into that moment. So don't be shy. Don't be shy to pause or sometimes put that press of a button, you know, like press that button and go for what you want. But know what's beneficial to you.
And played for national team? How many?
Yes.
How was it?
That was a good experience. But as human beings, we always desire growth.
Yes.
So when I was coming in after that, saying the target of 6 months, I was all I wanted was to put on that jersey. That was my target. Like, I want to wear that jersey and I want to play for Kenya. I want to hear that national anthem being played because of me and the rest of the players who were playing. So that was really encouraging. So after a few years now, your target changes again.
Yep.
You're like, so what's more after this?
Yep.
So I did play for the national team for about 3-4 years. Went for World Cup qualifiers and all those things. Some of them really didn't work out as we planned and all that.
Yeah.
But it was good exposure, playing at the top league or whatever for national team. That was a privilege. And even how I got in was really funny, because one of my rugby coaches didn't know about my rugby experience as much, but he had been told by the players and some of the other coaches, and like, oh, that basketball girl coming into national team. She can jump. She will help us in being a lock. And I was like, yes.
Yep.
So you just never know.
You just never know.
Yes.
And what's really brilliant, about your story and how things unfolded. How did you get now to Texas A&M?
I worked with some NGO on my last 2 years of university in growing basketball in the slums in a program called the Highway of Hope. So basically what we were doing is building basketball courts. We have so far built about 6 of them in Kibera, and we are yet to do more.
Yeah.
We have some of the donors from United States, and then we also have other people from here. So that exposure with some of them, and I shared with them one of my goals. And I told them I really desire to do sports management and take that switch. I didn't see myself doing computer programming for the rest of my life. I don't want to wake up in front of a computer every day.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to do sports management. Lucky enough, she was head of department in Texas A&M at that moment. So she told me all I had to do was apply and get accepted. Then we'll figure out what to do from there. So sometimes destiny helpers are actually a thing.
It is. Yeah.
It is a thing for me.
God positions them.
Exactly. She was my destiny helper at that moment. But it's also because I made a purpose to stand out, be clear on what I wanted and how I wanted it to be done. And that is what facilitated that.
And here you are.
Yeah, here I am.
Yeah. So given your background in sports management, and experience in various sports roles, how do you perceive, the current state of sports management in Kenya, and what opportunities do you see for improvement?
Our current state of sports is a bit wanting. I don't think any of us are satisfied with what's going on. We would wish for it to be better. And if I'm going to give you a word for the day, it would probably be accountability and issues with structure. So we do not have accountability in our systems. We have structure that is not being followed. But the reason why it's not being followed is even the system. It's a systemic problem, basically. The systems that are supposed to support it are not even working, because we are still playing amateur sports, but expecting professionalized results. It cannot work. Yeah, that's what is even happening with our current economy. We want to get there, but how are we getting there?
So how does, when you identify those systematic problems, how can you flip it? What are some of the things or ways that insights you can give of flipping it?
Well, we said a journey of 1,000 miles just starts with a step. So we need to appreciate progress, and we need to do the small things that are already there. And some of the exposure I've had is as an athlete mostly, but in terms of management, the things I'm studying, that's American. And one thing I avoid is these two systems are totally different. The way sports is run on the other side and this side is totally different. So we must understand, what do we have? In which ways can we make it work? What are some of the things that are hindering us from getting where we are? The leaders who are there, are they responsible? Are they accountable for what's going on? So one of the ways we can actually do that is just management changes. Then the other thing would probably be our facilities. I'm probably going ahead of myself, but if we're going to be competing with other countries or other things, there's no way we can be dealing with the facilities that we have. And when I'm saying facility, it doesn't mean pale Nyayo, we've put a few seats, which we do appreciate.
Yeah.
But just there are more that we can do, and we have the capability. It's just us taking that initiative and being very serious with it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe if you can share insights on how maybe in the US, colleges, high schools, how do they get to own such facilities, and how do they be able to sustain them?
It's totally different. So the system in the US is actually a pay-to-play, in club system that is especially. But how sports is organized is you come from your middle school, you're coming from kindergarten, you're coming to middle school, then you're coming to high school. And through that, that's how sports is built. So even if you're going to get national team players, you'll get that they have records from the high school they were in. From that, you get the draft, they get into, like in your college, and you get drafted, you get into the NBA or NFL or whatever you want to be in. So their sport is highly embedded into the sports system, into the educational system rather. And like here, we are still debating whether it is extracurriculum or co-curriculum.
Yeah.
When the maths teacher tells you, I want to teach you math, and you want to go for PE, it's still a problem.
Still a problem,
But we can't blame it. It's still the issue about socialization, where education is all that we care about. We don't see a picture where sports can actually give you, can supply your livelihood. Because how many players here can actually, even the ones in national team, can say they can pay their rent very well, they can feed themselves comfortably, not even without doing any other work. Most of the time you have to complement it with something else to be able to survive. That's so hard, especially now with women, it's even worse. Because of the roles and things that get into that. So the systems on both sides are really different. But if we change at each stage that we actually legitimize sport as a thing in Kenya, then we can actually appreciate the benefits that we can get out of it. We cannot respect an athlete because it doesn't mean anything to us. We have to create meaning.
We have to create meaning.
Yes, which is the one thing that we don't have. Our parents still think you're wasting time by going to play rugby, you're going to play basketball. Inatuletea chakula gani hapa? Because that is the immediate need to feed ourselves. Basically, we don't have basic needs. The guys in the US, sometimes some of the basic needs we actually we want here, they already have that. So they don't have to care about maybe food or something like that. Where is my water coming from? Because that's already there. So they can actually concentrate and give meaning to sports. They have time kwenda kukaa in the stadium and focus on sports because other things have been taken care of. So here it's really hard. First, you have to take care of the needs, and that's beyond sports.
That's true. That's way beyond.
It's sports. That's what I'm saying. It's a big system.
It's a big system that needs to be oiled, and the gears running together.
Yes. If one is not,
then it cracks out.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a question I wanted and it left anyway. Back to this. What specific challenges do you think, sports organization Kenya face? Being that now you're sports management or doctoral students, and how can they get out of those?
Again, so those have like three different aspects because there's now the micro, the maso, and the macro part of it. So if you're talking about if you're talking about the micro, which is just like our local teams, we need to go into professionalization. It needs to start from all the way to the bottom going up, or up from whatever system that you decide for it to be. So if we want to get benefits from sport, apart from the amateur mentality of, but I've supplied you a system where you can play sports, we need to start having technical bench or management that is responsible and accountable to every single thing they do. When you're how do you select your team managers? How do you select your coach? You just played football for a few days, coaches. But for you to be able to grow that team, the managers have to be put into skills They need to get sports. Sales skills. They need to know how to effectively manage their players. Player welfare itakuwaje? How are the things in accounts? Those are things that will enable the team to actually grow.
Yeah.
Now, if we have that structure in the micro level, local, it's actually very frustrating when you have a very structured system at the local level and at the topmost level. And that is what was happening currently in basketball. A lot of the local right now is taking charge. A lot of people are enjoying the mtaani basketball more than they're enjoying the KBF kind of leagues.
Yeah.
For reasons most of us know and others do not. But that system, if it's put into place by the topmost management, the KBF guys, and I'm speaking about basketball a lot and rugby because that's my exposure. I can only talk of what I know.
What you know. That's true.
Yes, but if the system is put in such a place that these are the clear things that we need to follow, then everybody else has no other, they all have to follow suit on what's supposed to be done.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
That's true. Drawing from your experience as a facilitator, in professional sports, communications, you've talked a little bit about sales. How can effective communication be leveraged to improve the overall image and reputation of sports organizations in Kenya? I see KCB doing it really well. KCB Rugby has taken advantage of social media. Their communication has been good. Yeah.
I will not lie.
Yeah.
They're always, sometimes sponsorship and all these promotions, ni kusumbua watu, always have a brand out there. Every single time you see a post of this is the player profile, this is what the team is doing, this is what we have done in the season. But also for me, communication is two-way. It's just not about that specific team telling people this is what we've done, but it's also asking those people, what can we do better? Because sometimes as managers, we forget that we are representing people. It's not us doing it what we think they want.
Yeah.
It's asking them, how can I make your life better? Then voicing that or acting upon that to make your life better. So it has to be two-way.
Has to be two-way.
You telling them this is what we have or what can we do, and that communication has to be from one side to the other one. But penye tumefika ni, we are having some authoritarian kind of leadership. We're just telling people what to do, but not being teachable. We can't even learn from what they want.
That's true.
Yes.
That's true. How's our communication at Wima Sports?
I think
Rate
we are
us
doing,
1 to 10.
I think we're doing well because this part of this podcast is understanding what is going on.
Yes.
That is collection of data so that you can actually make an improvement.
Yeah.
It's because you don't know, things like recovery are missing or some of these conversations are missing.
Psychotherapy.
Exactly.
Yes.
Because of these conversations, they help you to know what can we do next. So I think Wima is doing well.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. In your opinion, what are the key elements, that contribute to successful event planning in Kenya, more so within the sports landscape? And how can sports organization optimize such event?
Event planning is it's a very big topic. And entails a lot. I don't think we can stop just talking about event planning in one day.
Yeah.
But if I was to summarize, I think with events is knowing your target market. Once you know who you're actually planning for that event, you can suit them. How you're planning to have an event for CEOs and how you're planning for maybe the guys on entry level, it's so completely different.
Yeah.
So just knowing who are you marketing to, then have something completely that's helpful towards that goal. But event planning has a lot of things, logistics, the venue that you're going into, who are the staff working into that, how are the guys getting food and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think there's a specific thing I can tell you about event unless you had a specific question. Okay. So speaking of events, there's a time we were talking and you said how teams or people can collect data from, just now you talked about it's two-way, communication is two-way. Yes.
And one way to collect data is using ticketing. If maybe you can elaborate more on that and
Yeah. It's fun that I was talking about this also with my brother because I don't have access into football.
Yeah.
And he gave me an example of AFC. I think they tried to go online ticketing, and that is really helpful. Yesterday I was at Nyayo and they were actually paying, the pay bill was actually, you had to pay using the M-Pesa pay bill, which I think was also good. But we still have the system of unajua nani kwa gate. We have to end that thing.
We have to end it.
We have to end it because there's no way we are getting money. We can't be accountable for what we are getting. So one of the ways for us to be able to account for the amount of money we're actually getting from gate collection is through ticketing. And we can't still have the ticketing, the paper one, because we also want to be environmental friendly.
Yeah.
So the paper one we can actually go away from. But when you have the online, let's say we are having things like QR codes. Once I scan that ticket, and let's say my code was probably a number, let's say 123. And that's what is in there. Once I scan it, even if you come with your counterfeit ticket because ulitumiwa, it cannot scan.
It cannot, yeah.
So it's only one person ticket that goes in. And if everybody can get the ticket online, we can actually get data from that. How many people are coming into this basketball game? Is this venue, does it carry, if we say we have a 30,000 capacity at Nyayo Stadium, which is not true, but if that is the capacity that we have in a certain venue, and we see a trend where consistently, the minimum amount of people who have been coming into this game is, let's say, 10,000. We know this is the right venue. We know if we're going to have a big game like now with the 20 team, with KPN, all people want to come and actually watch those games. We need a better venue, a bigger venue. So we can actually tell a trend through ticket revenue.
That's true.
And not that we are collecting tickets. People don't want to pay for this thing because they also don't know where it's going.
Yeah.
We just know some goon is probably going to be the one getting this money.
Yeah.
No. But once we have it accountable, we know certain day this is the amount that we collected, and that money should actually be going back to the teams. A portion of it should be going back to the teams.
That's true.
Because without the teams, you can actually not be having a gate entrance.
That's true.
So revenue sharing is supposed to be a thing.
So Twende might be making lots of money now, right?
Ideally,
yeah,
because everybody wants to go and watch, which is this team that has come up now, and everybody's
guys traveled to Mombasa to go watch them for the first time,
And that's why people say that, Kenyans don't want to come and watch basketball, they don't want to come and watch this. Kenyans are actually way, way interested in sports. It's the environment and the system that's there that's really frustrating. Unta kwenda Mombasa, but tunakumbuka hapo tutenda tu kuibiwa ama sijui nini. They need to make a system and an environment which is very conducive and encourages people to actually go for those games.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to go into a Gor Mahia game, asema game gani which is violent, ama a local kwanza game za mtaani.
Ngori inatokea.
Game za mtaani kidogo tiagas. Nobody wants to go for that thing. So we need to make an environment that's really conducive for that. Yes.
So speaking of Doctari, as Doctari continues, Doctari Emma, one of the many hats you wear, you're also a grader of, sports law, and just share something about sports law. What are some of the legal challenges that you think within the Kenyan sports industry, measures that can be taken, and you can even talk more about some of the deals athletes sign out of,
Yeah, so I haven't delved so much into sports law, but the few that I know though, that would be relatable, I think for now, is things to do with injury and things to do with contracts. People really need to know what contract they're signing.
Yeah.
Because some of our federations are signing contracts that nobody else knows about, apart from themselves. Yet we are in a representative kind of organization. So we need to have players, everybody is chasing contracts because there's the aspect of sustainability in contracts, because you're very sure that in these years, this is the amount of money I'll get, or this is the terms that are going to be in that contract.
Yeah.
But most of our players are very eager to sign contracts, yet they don't know what is the consequences that abide with those contracts. So do take your time. read those contracts. And if you don't know, take it to a legal person and actually explain.
Yeah.
Sometimes unachezwa.
Vibaya. The thing is what tunaogopa. Okay, I'm saying too because I'm speaking on behalf of, some of the athletes. We have this fear and perception that, if I take this to a legal person, man, I need to give this guy money,
Yes.
I need to pay him. But it's worth it.
It is worth it, especially if it's going to be dealing with a lot of money. It is very worth it.
It is.
Because what happens to you, contract yako, the first thing you look at is your name, what club you're going to, na pesa ngapi inapatiwa.
That's
the
it.
in between, you tunaweza figure out.
Man.
But what happens if you're a player, you've been in this club, then you get an injury? What does it say in the contract?
That's it.
Are you dropped or what happens? And that's why I loved our contract in Strathmore. Because even if you had an injury, they would still cater for your education all throughout. So that was not changing.
Yeah.
So we really need to get into knowing what the contract terms. And don't be afraid to spend money sometimes. It's for your best.
100%.
It is for your best.
Yeah.
And then also things with injury, as I said. We need to know, in terms of legal, if this happens, who am I talking to?
Yeah.
So I guess that's what I could relate to in Kenya. Sana.
Yeah, just to bring you back to the teams and, the way the league is structured right now. What's your thought on starting to have home games? Because I think most teams in the Premier are varsity teams.
Yes.
And they have home courts. A few clubs within the Premier League also have home courts. Do you think that's a structure that can work in Kenya for now or no?
It can, because when you don't have a home court, what that means is you're also spending a lot of money in venues. So like people like Strathmore or KPA, when they have their own hometown, it actually gives you some sort of advantage because people come to watch your game there because they know there's a particular venue. So it's a structure that can work anywhere. But teams that have been there more than 20 years, everybody knows about this team. How don't we have a home court? It gives, ni vizuri kukuwa na nyumbani. Ukiona kwa jirani kuko vizuri, sasa utataka ku upgrade.
True.
Exactly.
Healthy competition.
It is a healthy competition.
And
that's our way to professionalization.
Yeah. So, because I've been really advocating for that, chini ya maji, where, I've been advocating for the varsity teams to come together and say, man, we need home games.
Yeah.
Because home games also help teams grow, helps teams grow their marketing and all those things. And I like the aspect that you've brought up that I've never thought of. It helps minimize venue costs.
Yes.
So KBF can actually minimize their venue costs if they allow for home games.
Yes.
I hope one of the guys wanting to vie for chairmanship are listening to the points that are coming here at Wima Sports by none other than Dr. Emma right here. Your involvement in sales strategies for sports organization is, notable. How can Kenya sports entities enhance their revenue streams through innovative sales and marketing approaches?
I think we already talked about that in terms of ticketing, but that is just not like the only way we can do that.
Yeah.
So apart from ticketing that we were talking about, moving it online, another thing is merchandising. So we have very passionate fans, especially in these big teams where it's more than just a sport. Watu wa Gor, watu wa FC, anajua pale KPA. There are people who really love sports. And merchandising is one of the way we can actually make some money. Kuna mtu anataka kuvaa t-shirt, they want to wear a t-shirt that represents their team because they're passionate about it. So if you can actually have a legal way of selling, seti somebody mtu anakuja tu ameprint t-shirt pale River Road pale chini alafu anasema I'm selling it for a particular team, and that money is not going back to the team. So if a team can have their legal way in which they can be selling their sports product and merchandise, that is another way they can do that. The other thing is parking, which pale Nyayo we don't have. But look at the number of people who actually drive to Nyayo. It's a lot of people. So parking is one of the ways we can actually make money. So that goes back to venue. Does our venue have a place where we can actually do parking? So see, it's not just a matter of I've built a court, yes, but where are they going to park? Because these are some of the things when you're going to a game. what am I eating? Where am I parking my car if you're driving?
Is it safe?
Where exactly am I sitting? Am I safe on where I'm going? If I'm bringing my kid especially, I'm going to consider safety very highly.
Yeah.
So merchandising is the other thing. The other thing I talk about was probably concession stands. Basically, the people who sell to us when we go to games.
Yeah.
Wale mama wanjugu,
Uh-huh.
the guys who sell ground nuts and the ones who sell crisps and all that kind of things. We need to have a system on how they are involved with the club. It's not a matter of so and so anajua a board member in the KBF or sijui the one in the league. Now you come and sell whatever you want. It's basically, you want to sell this, okay, so this is our agreement. Have a contract for that. It might seem like a really long process, but all this money is going back to the beneficial to the organization and to all these teams that are involved in it.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be making, let's say, 20,000 or 30,000 in this game, a portion of it needs to be helping this people to make them come more.
Yeah.
Huwezi kuwa tu unapata pesa yote alafu there's somebody somewhere getting a portion of that money and the rest is not going somewhere.
That's true.
Yeah, so have everything in structure. And it's hard, it's really hard because we've been dealing with unstructured system. Change is very hard.
It is.
Some people would be, that is killing Mama Mboga's vibe, or the person mtuanjugu bana ni 10 bob 20 bob unataka yako. It's actually, it's disheartening, yes, but if we have a structure, that person could actually be earning more because everything is structured.
That's true.
But because it's unstructured, some guys would be like, no.
Everyone is fighting for themselves.
Exactly.
Now. Yeah.
So you're not fighting now for yourself, you're actually having a whole structure that's fighting for you.
For you.
And that's where we need to think about it.
That's true. That's true. Considering your leadership roles in sports, how can effective team leadership, contribute to the overall success of sustainability in sports organizations in Kenya?
That helps in having effective goals. It also helps out with building a culture in the team. So if you're talking of effective what again?
Effective goals or ways in which, we can be able to successfully sustain sports organizations.
So without team leadership, it would be very hard. And if the team leadership and the guys who are in senior players and all that are very accountable and telling them, hey, this is how we do things here. And they're very accountable to each and every player. This is our performance structure. Everybody else who comes in will have to follow because that's a culture that has been built there.
Yeah.
Because they've already set out the goals that they want to achieve as a team. So I think that is very, very critical for them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Having played in several leagues, in Texas, All-Star team, how do international experiences inform your perspective on elevating competitiveness and standards of sports in Kenya?
I think it opens your eyes. As a player, it does open your eyes to it gives you exposure to what is out there.
Yeah.
You can't compare it with the things which probably is here. There are some which is better, and others which are not. There's some level of improvement that can be done on both sides. But that exposure makes it very clear on what you want. Because if you don't have a vision, you've not been exposed to something. If you're used to being paid, 5,000, then you go out there, that 5,000 is probably a day. Yes, it's different economies and different places.
Yeah.
But when you're coming back, you know what goes into what you're being paid. You know your value. So it really helps out to know your value and what goes into everything that you're doing.
That's true.
Yeah.
Your role in corporate and marketing activations, you've been experienced to that. What strategies would you recommend for Kenyan sports organization in terms of, corporate partnerships and all these also help build up federation, help build up teams? What role do you think, what advice can you give for Kenya for that? So
those are quite a number of questions. You talk of sports, you talked of activations, that's something different than you talk about corporate, so I'm not sure. But if you're mixing the two, okay, let me talk about each one of them first. Okay. So on activations, that's in marketing. Yeah. So different activations can be done. And what we do, basically in the US, what activations are is things like the Spurs they have a very big Hispanic people around them. So what they do is things like Fiesta Night. where basically they are able to celebrate the Hispanic culture and all that.
Okay.
So if I'm going to be having a game in Kisumu and I'm having Gor Mahia play, I should be able to involve something that deals with the Luo culture, something that can be able to make them actually want to come in.
Wow.
If I'm going to be playing in Mombasa, what is it that actually people want to see? That there's a difference when I'm playing in Mombasa and there's a difference when I'm playing in Kisumu. When I come to Nairobi, what do I want to see? That versatility and different. Those are some of the activations that you can do.
Gotcha.
Everybody loves free things.
For sure.
But free things costs. There's somebody who's going for that cost.
Yeah.
So you're getting it free, but there's a corporate or somebody else who's actually having to pay for that.
Yeah.
So that's where the corporates come in.
Yeah.
For you to have those things, let's say, for example, Coca-Cola is partnering up with, let's say, basketball team. They need to know, as much as they're going to reduce the cost of that amount of soda for you to be getting it at a fair price that will encourage you to come, that price has to be sorted out somewhere. For them to be able to get back their return of investments that they got into. So corporate partnerships are okay, but they also need to get a value of their money somehow. Even if it's not tangible, it can be tangible or not. Because sometimes some of them in the small corporates, for them, they just want exposure. But you just want to be known. There's a particular insurance company that wants to be known, especially like the teams that were working with the local guys in basketball in Madari.
Yeah.
The insurance companies at that time, they were not known. But because of that, now people know, all they want is exposure.
Yeah.
So they have to foster partnership between corporates. And that also goes back to offsetting the amount of money you spend on a venue or in a tournament or something like that.
Yeah.
Because if I don't have to take care of drinks because a company is taking care of, and all they just want a name on the tournament or a brand to be plastered somewhere.
That's it.
We can actually do it.
Yeah, yeah.
But But most of the ones that come, like international corporates, want accountability. We don't have a structure that has accountability. You're asking for money, yet we don't know you're not clear on what you want to use it for. Your account book should be able to say specifically, I'm asking for 5 million for travel, to take care of food, to take care of tapes zinafungwa wachezaji.
Yeah.
You need to be very specific, and this is the amount of money that will be cost. Tunapata this rate. You need to be very specific. Nobody wants to give you money and then you go waste it. Then when they partner up with international brands, they're like, we didn't get that contract. It's because they don't know why. You don't have a clear goal of how you're using your money. So they have to be very clear. Their books, everybody has to sort out their finance books.
A must. No shortcut.
They have to.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to give you money and they don't know what you're going to use it for.
Yeah. So your skills include ground management. And we talked a little bit about infrastructure. And what are some of the easiest sustainable ways as things are now that we can be able to improve our grounds?
If we say we don't have money to build more courts, it's okay, fine. But how do we maintain the courts that we have? How do we maintain the grounds that we have? I saw recently, all the time we in Kasarani and in Nyayo would have very big concerts when they're putting very big machines in the field. And that is being done on Friday. Saturday, there's a game. And then when you look at it, there are holes. Kidogo a player is playing ankle injury.
Yeah.
And especially just things like the ones that you are very explosive, things like basketball, there's a lot of jumping. You need a surface that can actually help the player. Because if you notice, a lot of players who are playing basketball have issues with their knee and their ankles, which is not entirely to the maintenance of the ground, but it can offset a part of it. It goes back to mambo na your shoes. What type of shoes are you wearing? But people don't even know the difference between indoor and outdoor. Or some of them cannot even afford that shoe. But putting an environment or a court or a field that can help that player have a longer time of playing, longevity of playing can be very helpful to them. Even if they go out, they know what they want.
Yeah.
Yes.
Psychotherapy in sports. You've been deeply involved with sports psychology. How can the mental well-being of athletes be prioritized in Kenya?
it's unfortunate, most of us, not some, there's a built up of mental health awareness in the past, especially during COVID.
Yeah.
It really grew a lot, but unfortunately, most of us still live in the world of an African does not have mental issues. Your life is hard enough. Such things cannot be traumatizing you. But we do suffer from these things. It's just that we are not taught to see it happening and how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Some of us, when it happens, you have a problem. No. It actually originated from something.
Yeah.
So basically, our coaches need to be taken under that. They need to take a study
on that.
They need to know, because coaches are the people that actually spend the most amount of time with players.
That's true.
So if our coaches are equipped that it is mandatory, and that's why sometimes I love rugby. I actually went rugby because of structure. As a rugby coach, lazima you have these certifications of a particular thing for you to deal with players.
That's true.
You have level 1, you have level 2. This is what you're supposed to do. You must take first aid because players are born to injuries one way or another.
Yeah.
Psychology should also be a part of it. As a coach, can you observe that your player actually is going under some problem? This kid has not eaten for days. Unataka kumkimbiza for 3 hours. Aje. This kid actually, jana, amebiwa kwa nyumba. That person, if you're not in a good mental state, it's very hard for you to perform.
That's true.
Plus, this mentality of just be a hardcore, it's fine, but if there's a problem, it needs to be addressed. If not, they'll atayeka to somewhere, but it will actually manifest at some point.
That's true.
So they need to have system, even if have psychology, especially with these guys who are playing in the top level, have psychologists in your team, or have a way, you have somebody they can consult in a way to get them help. But we need to first acknowledge that mental health is a thing.
It's a thing.
Especially at the top level where there's so much pressure to perform.
Yeah.
As a national team player, you're told, we can't lose this game to Uganda. It's a matter of pride now.
Yeah.
But that's so much pressure. It's okay, but how is that helping me with my performance? And it also goes back to, what are the words we are telling our players? Have you ever taken a video of when players, when the coaches are talking to players?
True.
Yeah.
True that.
Especially in very game pressure.
Yes.
The first thing that comes out is abuse.
Yes. Narushwa kurushwa.
Whether you're being, especially if you're under things like contracts, you're threatened by that. We'll take away your contract. Hatuta kulipa hii month. When you're telling somebody negative things, that is what now ends up being manifested, and your performance actually changes. But if you remind that player, I have seen you play. I have seen you play under pressure. I've seen you play at this particular time. What can you do better? I'm going to even suggest positive reinforcement actually works.
It works. You said that, and I remembered Steve Kerr to Steph Curry. Always reminding Steph Curry, you've been in this situation before.
Yes, it's not new.
It's not new.
Yes.
There's that specific game you shot this, and you made only 2.
Yes.
You can do better in the next half, and boom, voila, Curry comes back and 41 points.
People need to be reminded. You need to be reminded of these are the things you've done well. Can you focus more? Put your focus more on that.
Yeah.
But if you're basically telling somebody negative things, it comes to life. There was a research that was done when you tell a woman, because the stereotype has been ladies do not know how to, they're not poor in maths and poor in sciences.
Yeah.
And they took a test before, and then they took another different test where it was you're told you don't know, you will fail maths and you fail science. Do you know they failed more?
Wow.
So just because of that.
Yeah.
And there's some people who so-called they can take that pressure in, but how many of them can?
Not so much.
That goes back to coaches knowing their players. There's a player ukimwongelesha vibaya, but they'll be very annoyed, but they'll go out there and they'll be able to do it. But this other player will be like, anaongelesha kama nani. Kwenda huko tena. You need to know your players and what they can take. To what limit can you push them?
That's true.
And that goes back to psychology.
Yeah.
Yes.
On to the quick fire segment. Your best sports documentary?
My best sports documentary?
Yes. If you have watched any, that is.
I can't remember his name though. He was a doctor from the US, though.
The one where guys were jumping and last Mike? No. What? The Maasais were involved? Or no? Oh, okay.
It was just a sit down with him.
Oh, okay.
Let's pass on that one.
Let's pass on that one. Your best sports recovery equipment or method?
Rest.
Rest.
Rest is the best. Of course, I can do like ice is not always. It depends with the injury. That's when ice works. But we have different equipments that can also help you with that. But rest, having the needed water or wherever that you need, basic spare sometimes do help.
Do help.
Yes.
And your best sports athlete?
Wow.
Terrain. Quick fire.
Elliot has been very encouraging. And the reason why I just say it, his ears and what he's still doing, we're still in awe.
Yeah, that's true.
We're still in awe until now.
Basketball or rugby?
It depends. Play.
Basketball or rugby?
Rugby. Okay, I'll say, if it's just choosing out of it, I'll say rugby.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Now it depends.
It depends. If I'm playing, I'd want rugby.
Okay.
If I'm supporting and helping out, I'd say basketball.
Basketball.
Yes.
Gotcha. Most memorable sports moment in Texas?
I think that would be winning the NCR in 2022. We were the college champions, I think. Yeah.
Toughest challenge you faced as a sports representative?
Is that in Strathmore or just generally? In Strathmore?
Generally, wherever can be in Strathmore.
Convincing people is hard. So your increasing involvement is a challenge.
Yeah.
Yes.
And define effective sports communication in one sentence.
Wow. It's basically getting the right information to the right people and getting feedback.
Top tip for successful event planning?
Market segmentation and knowing your market.
Summarize your approach to team leadership in 5 words.
Wow. Inspiring.
Yeah.
Understanding.
I'm counting.
Teachable.
2 more.
Empathy.
I'm loving that.
Respect.
And respect. Awesome. On to the last one. 1 word to describe the current state of sports management in Kenya.
It's wanting.
Your go-to strategy for enhancing fan engagement in Kenyan sports?
Let's know what the fans want.
If you could change one sports law or regulation in Kenya, what would it be?
Wow. That one will have to pass.
So since we've passed on that one, if you are a Babu na Mwamba, what change will you start making in sports? What will you do the first thing? What will be the first thing that you do?
I think I'd get all the organizations in one house. And let's set every organization, that's either KBF or whoever's running the league, talk to them and know their specific goals first. And from there, force them to have accountability. I think that would really be helpful.
That would be helpful.
Yes.
It's been a great honor having you. Dr. Emma, you've given us really so much impactful, insights.
Yeah.
And you've shared your experience. We've had fun. And we are looking forward to greater things for you.
For sure.
We celebrate you and, keep on excelling, break the glass ceiling and keep on going. We are wishing you all the best at Wima Sports. And before we go, if you can speak in that camera to a 17-year-old you, what will you do different?
17-year-old me.
Yeah.
Take care of your body. Know what you want and go for it.
That's it. Take care of your body. Know what you want and go for it. 17-year-old student athlete out there, or whatever thing that you do, take care of your body, know what you want, and go for it. Indeed, viewers, it was a great honor having you here at Wima Sports, and we are at Osoita Lodge, indeed, where guests become family. And as we bid you adieu, I'd like to congratulate once more Dr. Emma for Daktari. I'm so happy calling her Daktari. Until next time, viewers, it's your host, Jermaine, signing out. Salute.
Something.